top 10.
In the Ohio mock trial program, attorneys and witnesses are represented by two separate yet equal schools, along with the advisors who help teach the case and the coordinators and volunteers who make the day possible. A lack of civility is considered especially heinous. Students are part of an elite squad who demonstrate respect for the court and for each other. These are their stories.
In a statement.
Peel back.
Welcome to Excitement News. I'm your host, Marco Lewis. Today's show is all about one of the year's hottest dramas, Oceandale. Our favorite film noir style show will be tackling the controversial issue of privacy in a high-tech world. This, of course, is not without a juicy backstory, equipped with all the twists and turns we know and love. Still reeling from the aftermath of the White Mask, the town of Oceandale turns its attention to the newest crime. Let's take a look.
What's wrong, dear?
I don't know. I just have a lot on my mind.
Is it your dad again?
No, it's not that. I've just been thinking about all the horrible things that happen in this town.
Well, that's enough to make anyone depressed.
It's like Oceandale just has one tragedy after the other. It's hard to remember anything good ever happening here.
That's for sure. But what's on your mind this time?
That whole state pension fund thing, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to the story.
I know. I don't understand how the state managed to lose $120 million.
That's what I mean. It might sound crazy, but I really don't think it was the Russians like Mayor Hedge has been saying.
Honestly, that doesn't sound crazy. The Russian bit is a little played out. What do they care about our state?
Exactly. I think it's somebody from town. It's Oceandale. Things don't just happen.
Have you talked to Bedhead about this?
Quinn Woolf was just arrested for hacking into and stealing the state pension fund.
What? Why?
I don't know. Steven just said that the police came to the Wolf's house and arrested Quinn.
That's insane. Why would Quinn have anything to do with this?
Steven said the police had a warrant when they came for Quinn.
None of this makes any sense.
I guess they took a laptop and a notebook. Steven's there with his dad right now.
I mean, aren't they gonna help? His dad is a lawyer, isn't he?
They tried to stop it, but there's really not much you can do to fight a warrant.
What kind of evidence could they possibly have?
Do you remember hearing about that drone project Harmony was doing with that vacant farmland?
Yeah.
Apparently, that farmland is right next to the Wolf's property, and they saw Quinn in the backyard with a notebook and a laptop.
I don't understand how that could get Quinn arrested.
I guess the drone can take really detailed images, and they saw Quinn with part of a private code needed to access the state's account.
That seems impossible.
Steven's dad said that's how they got the warrant, so it must have been convincing enough.
You don't think Quinn could have actually done it, do you?
I don't know. I can't imagine that it was Quinn, but I guess you never know.
You should really talk to Bedhead about this. You two brought down both of our fathers without any help.
I can try, but Quinn is literally going to be on trial for stealing $120 million. It's kind of out of my wheelhouse here, Charlie.
Well, someone needs to do something. If Quinn really is responsible, that's one thing. But if Quinn didn't do it...
I know. That would be terrible. What do you think happens if Quinn's actually innocent?
Maybe you can find out a way to get the drone evidence thrown out.
It does seem pretty illegal to just videotape somebody in their backyard.
You know, that's my point. You and Bedhead should really look into it, and I'll see if Vanessa knows anything.
Okay.
Be careful. Like you said, bad things always seem to happen in Oceandale.
You too, Charlie.
Wow, that's some intense stuff. Luckily, we have Oceandale's legal consultant, Alex Leslie, here to help sort some things out. Welcome, Alex. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Marco. I'm happy to be here.
So, there's a lot going on this season. Do you think you can help break it down for us?
I don't want to give away too much, but I can explain how they might approach a trial to exclude the drone evidence.
So you're saying that's a possibility. The drone footage might not be used in court.
The drone footage is really the important piece in all of this. It's possible that it might be excluded, but it could go either way.
Well, so if they did try to have it excluded, how would that work?
The prosecution would likely claim that they didn't need a warrant because they never actually conducted a search, or because they hired a private company to fly the drone, it wasn't a state action anyway.
How is invading someone's backyard not considered a search?
Well, there is precedent to suggest that a flyover of your backyard isn't an invasion of privacy. They will argue that Quinn and the code were in plain view by being open in the backyard.
That sounds a little crazy to me. I read in my backyard all the time, and I never really think I have to be looking out for someone flying over me in the sky.
Well, Marco, that's probably the direction the defense will go. They will argue that the footage was an illegal search because it was an intrusion on an area where Quinn had a reasonable expectation of privacy.
Does it matter that it wasn't actually the police flying over Quinn's backyard?
The defense would say no, even though it was an independent contractor that flew over the Wolf's property. That contractor was under heavy supervision from the state. A court could consider them a state actor, which means a warrant would be needed to collect private information.
Well, I'm glad we had you here to explain all of this. I know we're all excited to see your hard work come through this season. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
We have one more Oceandale surprise for you today. Raina Lehard. Raina, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, what can you tell us about Judy on this season of Oceandale?
Well, Judy's been through a lot lately with her dad being the white mask and finding a sister she never knew she had.
I think we were all a little surprised by that one.
So this season, Judy's really just trying to put that all behind her and take charge of her life.
And can we expect Bedhead to join Judy on this new path?
Well, I don't want to give anything away, but we all know Bedhead is a sucker for a good story.
Well, it just so happens that we have a clip of Bedhead and Judy back in the school newsroom. Let's take a look.
Bedhead, I don't even know where to start with all of this.
Well, I guess we should just try to look at it from both sides. Quinn's attorneys will want to suppress the drone evidence because they're claiming it was collected illegally.
But the prosecution's not buying any of that. They're adamant that the police didn't need a warrant because they didn't actually perform a search.
Exactly. Let's look at the prosecution first.
They obviously have Eli Moss, the drone operator, on their side. Eli knows all the details of the contract with the City of Harmony.
And Eli is familiar with drone technology and says that it was available to the public.
I guess Eli probably needs to explain how the footage was enhanced, which is where Officer Miller comes in. Miller was the one who discussed the enhancement with Eli and knows what the image looked like before and after.
That's kind of a big difference, original versus enhanced. If the footage went through all kinds of zooming and enhancing, it's going to be difficult to argue that the information was in plain view. And if Miller testifies that Eli went about the enhancement independently, it's going to be tough for the defense to prove state action.
That's true, but it still comes down to whether or not Eli was a state actor, and that's something that both sides are going to have to argue about.
Officer Miller is also the only person who can talk about why they started suspecting Quinn in the first place, and why that little scrap of code is so incriminating.
So, who else does the prosecution have to testify?
Well, they also have Campbell Bolt, the city official responsible for drafting the contract.
That's pretty important because Campbell can talk about the contract and all the details, but Campbell also knows the other aircrafts that fly through that area.
Right. Campbell will talk about the annual balloon festival and the permits that the city issues to crop dusters for nearby farms.
So if Campbell can prove that aircraft generally does fly through that area, that kind of eliminates any expectation of privacy.
The prosecution has a pretty strong case.
Sure, but so does the defense. Quinn can talk about the backyard and how it really is a private place.
That's true. Quinn spent a lot of time in the backyard without ever seeing any aircraft flying overhead, other than the balloon festival, but that only comes around once a year.
And who else? There's also Dr. Monroe.
True. Dr. Monroe can testify about drone technology and how expensive it really is. In our interview, Monroe said the drone Eli used was really expensive and not something your average person would have had.
Dr. Monroe can also talk about that contract, which is important because that can help counter Campbell.
Exactly. Monroe believes the contract had a lot of oversight and isn't typical of your government contracts.
That's good for the defense because if they can show that that contract has too much oversight and is too specific, that's a good way to help prove state action.
What about Dylan Ulrich? There was a fallout between Dylan and Eli, right?
Yeah, there was. Dylan used to work for Eli and quit not long after the farmland was complete. And Dylan was still working there when Officer Miller came in to review the footage.
That's what makes Dylan's testimony so important for the defense. Dylan will testify that Officer Miller specifically asked Eli to enhance the image.
I bet that's why Dylan quit. Dylan was such a stickler for the rules that I'm sure that enhancement felt like an invasion of privacy.
That makes sense to me. Dylan was definitely a rule follower.
I know. Dylan even made note of when that balloon festival was going to come to town so it wouldn't interfere with the drone.
I don't know, Judy.
What?
All of this, it's so complicated. This trial could go either way.
That's all the time we have today, but tune in to find out what happens to Quinn Woolf when Oceandale returns on January 18th.